Okay, today's video might just be, to me, my most important yet for what I have to say, what I have to share with you that I felt I discovered in my journey through listening to these IEMs. So please, whatever you do, try your best to listen to the whole video. Whether you like it or not, I think it's going to be so important to the whole argument that I'm going to be making today if people listen to as much of it as they can. Okay? There's less clips today, but we're going to play them for an extended listen to really dive deep into this thing I'm trying to share with you. I think it could be a seismic shift in how a lot of people think in this hobby, how they think about reviews, how they think about their own tastes. This is an important one, guys. All right, so we're going to start with the Khan, and then we're going to flip to the HBB and back to the Khan again. Throw in some Sol Note 0, see how something that I like compares to the two, and talk some more. Let's go.
I'm standing all by myself in the shadows, surrounded by the silence seeping in, alone with my thoughts, no one to follow, running on time that's paid thin. Can someone hear me screaming at the top of my lungs? Tell me that I'm only dreaming. Can someone take away this feeling? It feels like I am barely breathing. Come and save me. Tell me that I'm only dreaming. Everything around me spinning. Need someone to wake me up before it's too late. 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 Up before it's too
Did you hear that? Did you hear how the video opened? Go back if you need to. Go back to the start of the video and just listen to the Khan without the HBB interrupting. Just loop the Khan. It sounds to me, when the video first plays, when this demo first plays, the Khan sounds great. It sounds like the music is enjoyable to me. I don't have a frame of reference. Nothing is being compared to it. It just sounds good on its own merits. Right? And that's probably what a lot of people thought when they first put them in their ears in real life. It sounds to a lot of people good. But what if you started with the HBB? What if you were just listening to the very, very warm HBB for a long time in your ears, and then you switched to the Khan because it just came in the mail? Might your first impression be very sour and very flavored negatively by that first impression? Could be. Because when we switched from that warm HBB back to the Khan for the first time here, that Khan sounded terrible. And it's not because the actual tuning changed from one part of the track to another. The Khan was still the same Khan that you heard when the video first opened. I didn't EQ it. I promise nothing was altered. This is just psychology speaking. This is just our brains hearing something good, going to something else with a completely different tuning, getting used to it, coming back and being, ugh. That sounds like the energy was just sucked out of it. Like the HBB robbed the Khan of all its good energy or something. And then the Sol Note 0 came up, just to throw a wrench in everybody's scheme, trying to make sense of this confusing mess. And the Sol Note 0, to me, immediately just sounds like a good compromise between the two. It consistently hits this heft that we kind of want, though not a lot of it, and the brightness we want. That's why it's my favorite entry-level item. It probably still is after this video for overall listening. But let's keep listening. Let's listen to some female songwriter acoustics and see how the note weight on the HBB, the very warm HBB, affects things. Does it benefit the music, and what happens to the Khan psychologically? When does brain burn-in occur? Because that's what I think is happening. That's my big discovery of the day. I think if you listen to something long enough, your brain burns into it. And I don't even think it's as long as these ridiculous things like you have to listen for 100 hours. Come on. You have to listen for 30 seconds before something blossoms again. Okay? Let's listen to the Khan, see what I mean. It's going to sound like the energy gets sucked out of it, but give it a little moment and the energy just somehow comes back.
Close your eyes, listen to your heartbeat now. What have you become? Oh God, what have you become? Close your eyes, listen to the silence now. Time is moving on and I'm still inside this dream world. And I'm trying my best. I swear that I'm trying my best. Close your eyes, listen to the rain, kiss the ground. What have we become? Oh God, what have we become? Close your heart, listen to the world undone. Time is running out. And I'm doing
And I'm trying my best. Really beautiful song, isn't it? Tragic and deeply personal, but beautiful, somber. So what do I think of the IEMs presented? I think we kind of demonstrated here a little bit more concretely how when we switch from the very warm tuning that the HBB provides, and we switch from it over to something relatively much brighter that the Khan provides, we hear a sucking out of all that wonderful low-end energy that the HBB had, and we miss it. And yet, if we just let the Khan play for a little bit, maybe on the right track, maybe with the right amount of time, whatever it is, eventually it comes back. And we start not to have to miss that low end that the other guy had, that the HBB had before. And I think this is something very significant potentially for us as a community to consider, for reviewers to consider, for people viewing reviews to consider. When people share their opinions, now I really wonder how often people are sharing based on first reactions that are heavily biased and coded by their prior experience. Like what if somebody only listened to the HBB like all the time, or something with similarly high low-end energy? Would they, I pose the question to think about here, would they, when listening to the Khan or something bright for the first time, absolutely trash on it? Would they go into the community's comment sections and say, oh, it's too bright? Something to consider, I suppose. I'll leave you that to chew on your own, what that could mean and the implications of all this. But let's talk IEMs. Let's see which ones I actually like. Let's sift through the potential brain burn-in problems. And, after listening to these IEMs for long enough in this video that our brains have the opportunity to appreciate what each of them offers, what do we think? I actually really liked the HBB's warmth. I really enjoyed how different it was. I think the HBB has a potential chance to be the #1 relaxed listening gear, almost period, except for super, super high-end stuff. I'm thinking it might even outshine how much I enjoy the Kai at $70, or the Melee, which is no longer in production, but was available for what, $40, $50, something like that. And the HBB is only $20. It's almost like Bad Guy Good Audio Reviews, HBB, Hawaiian Bad Boy. It's almost like he is improving his taste and his craft on frequency response alterations and suggestions to these manufacturers, because the HBB is this like really wonderful balance. And if you're not considering it already as a cheap, easy to obtain entry into your warm section of your collection, you should. Okay, if you've never owned a very warm set, the HBB is proving itself to be a very enjoyable entry into that realm. Now, personally, I actually still gravitate, nonetheless, as much as I appreciate it for what it's doing, and I certainly would rank it highly as something that I might listen to myself when I want to have a relaxed experience. I nonetheless personally prefer, if I were to pick one for everyday listening, the Sonotes Zero. Because the Khan was a little too bright towards that leaner side. It was too lean, is what I'm trying to say. The Sonote Zero, though, even though it has certain aspects to its treble response that sounds brighter, like it has certain pops and clarity that I don't get quite in the same way as the Khan, and I appreciate that about the Sonote Zero. The Sonote Zero also has a weight in somewhere in the mids or lower end that the Khan does not comparatively, and I find that experience one that I want to have. If I was in that budget range to consider either the Khan or the Sonote Zero would be my more overall pleaser. Even though it's cheaper, maybe half the price of the Khan, I prefer it so far. Times can change. I'll listen to these things more in the coming months, probably, but that's my opinion for now. So let's move on. Let's go to the Kai, the previous #1 place in my ranking list for relaxed listening. And let's see how the HBB now performs against it? How does my former champion of warm and relaxed compare against this new contender at a fourth the price?
I'm trying to go forward. I'm trying to forget our time inside the bubble, the hours that we spent. But lover, you made me feel like no other, touching me deeper than others, making me feel I was wanted, like elongated shadows. The days will never end. I'm looking at your number. I wonder, should I dare? Oh, my lover, you made me feel like no other, touching me deeper than others, making me feel I was I'm looking at your number. I wonder, should I dare? I know I shouldn't bother. I know it isn't fair. Oh, my lover, you made me feel like no other, touching me deeper than others, making me feel I was
Oh my goodness, the burn-in monster strikes again. It's so fascinating. I started with getting us reacclimated on this new track to the three that we've heard before, the HBB, the Khan, and the Cell Note Zero, and before we introduce the Kai into the mix. And at first, you could think that the Cell Note Zero and Khan are doing pretty good, but then we let the Kai settle in for a while. We gave it a longer listen than any other clip in any one go, to let any potential brain burn-in have its impact. And then when we switched to the HBB, not only did the HBB suddenly sound like it opened up and became the clarity king in the context of, compared to the Kai, which is extremely warm by comparison, it was kind of like a what? Like the HBB is already an extremely warm playback compared to anything else in your own ears. And yet when you go to something that's also within the realm of very warm, your brain is like living in warm land. And then when it flips between different warm sets, the one that has just a little bit more brightness somewhere, in this case, the HBB, sounds like it's a perfectly balanced set. And it's just like, it's so far. Where's my glasses? I just realized I don't have my glasses on. The HBB is so far from being a balanced set. It's ridiculous. Like, compared to the whole market, the HBB is quite warm. And I'm not saying it in a bad way. It just is. And it does it very well, but it is very warm. And so when we go from the Kai, from that long segment, and then the HBB for its own little segment for some reference, the funniest thing happens. We go to the Sol Note Zero, which I thought was a stellar playback at first anyway, which I thought had a good handle on things, suddenly just sounded like it was missing so much. How much of that is psychological? Because if you listen to a song with an IEM and you just enjoy it for its own merits and you feel the joy, and then that joy is taken from you completely. In fact, you think that the song even sounds gross after you tried something that was better. I think that says something. You know, maybe there's a reason. Maybe we are hearing in practice what happens in this phenomenon. When have you ever had this happen to you? When, like, I remember when I bought the AirPods, you know, before I was into IEMs at all, and I was like, I might have been into headphones at first, but not on IEMs. When I just had my headphones and I went out for like a jog or something like that, I didn't have an IEM. So what did I do? I used AirPods from Apple, and it wasn't even an AirPod Pro. It was just like some basic older model of the AirPods, and I thought they sounded a certain way that allowed me to enjoy my music. I was enjoying myself. I was loving my music, not because I thought the sound quality was amazing or anything. I didn't have much of a frame of reference. I just loved the music. And then you buy something with some qualities that the AirPods don't offer, and when you try to go back to the AirPods, they sound like they stink. They never changed. Our emotions changed. Our experience changed our very perspective, as well as the burn-in effects that could occur therein. So this whole hobby, man, is crazy to try to sift through with all the potential caveats of psychology at play and experience that's at play. It's just wild to try to get any kind of semblance of an idea of what we should buy, given all this. Now, that being said, I can tell you, like, if you listen to the Sol Note Zero long enough, again, you will start to appreciate it for what it is again, okay? Now, between the Kai and the HBB, though, just looking at them, trying to ignore brain burn-in, just putting them in my own ears, and having had listened to them myself for entire lengths of playlists, you know, like an hour-long sit-through. Maybe I'm gaming and it's in the background, or maybe I'm driving, or maybe I'm just sitting here. Whatever it is, I can tell you that the Kai is much warmer across the board than the HBB. And the HBB does have a certain level of detail that emerges in its mix that the Kai does lack. Maybe we wouldn't feel emotionally like it's such a bad thing for the Kai, you know, when we actually listen to it. But there is that difference on paper. And, you know, I can't tell you how you perceived the Kai just now. Maybe you thought it stunk. Maybe you need to consider, too, that it was your brain getting used to the HBB, and it would be different if you had the Kai for an even longer listen. Maybe I'll post a video that says get to know Kai, and maybe it can serve that purpose of acclimating ourselves to the sound, perhaps. I don't know. But at this current moment, I am leaning towards the HBB over the Kai. So it might go up in the ranking list, the HBB, above the Kai, under my list that's titled Warm and Relaxing. Okay, that's where this is basically going. I think the HBB might be my number one pick for warm and relaxing. Now, the next track, I have something very special for you. Kind of something of a surprise I've been holding off on. I'm not even going to tell you. I'm not even going to tell you what it is yet. Just listen. Consider all the brain burn-in conversation I've been having and how it might bias how good or bad you think this thing sounds when it comes up. But give it a chance. Let it burn in. Magic will happen. Take a listen. What? um, the Maestro SC, sorry to spring it on you guys. I kind of have a tradition of doing that, surprising people with the best sounding stuff or new arrivals towards the end of a video, just to shock us into, appreciating what it is we can save our money for if we don't choose to buy the things in the video. And the reason why I included the Maestro is, one, it's new and I was just excited to share it. But two, more importantly, the Maestro actually sounds, when you first put it in your ear, it sounds cartoonishly warm. Like to the point where I was like, huh? Who likes this? Is this a joke? But as it turns out, that was just my knee-jerk reaction. I had to let it settle into my brain, like anything else, it seems, until I could appreciate what else was offered. And you could hear it pretty quickly in this example. And what's even more surprising is when you switched away from the Maestro SC back to the other stuff, the cheaper stuff, compare even $200 compared to the 2000 Maestro is a tenth of its price. Even $200 gear can sound like a budget set compared to 2000. But when you switch to the cheaper stuff, in quotes, cheaper, or cheap stuff, they all sounded like they lost something major. They all sounded like they were too thin, and even the timbre, the voicing didn't sound natural all of a sudden, even though they might have sounded perfectly natural earlier. That's the effect that I've been on in this video, And the Maestro just like hammers the nail in the coffin. Like, guys, if you listen to something with a certain effect to it that sounds great, it's going to retroactively change your perspective. It can change your perspective on the things you used to like. This is a major discovery for me. I mean, I think I've suspected it in the past, and I voiced this concern in our community in the past, but it really came to a head when I was making this video and when I received that item. I noticed it even with the HBB with you guys throughout this video when we switched from the very warm HBB to other stuff. There's something there that's happening that we need to consider when we share our very strong opinions on the internet. You can't take everybody with a grain of salt, is what I'm saying, okay? And take your own opinions with a grain of salt, really. People get so offensive towards other people about their preferences. Just relax, guys. No, really, just maybe I'm just the only one who feels this way. I don't know. But anyway, here are my concluding thoughts about all the gear presented. I just had to take a moment to recognize the brilliance and the oddity of a situation that Maestro created, and why it was there. But here's my concluding remarks. Here's my recommendations to leave you with if you wanted to know what I thought. I think that the Maestro SE is the best thing to save for in this video. For if you're into sub bass, if you're into warmth, if you're into a relaxed listening experience, then the HBB at $20 is the entry-level king to that relaxed experience. You get some detail offered with some of that low-end energy and warmth and enjoyment that something much more expensive like the Maestro offers. You do lose the detail, but for $20, it's an obvious choice. Especially if you're somebody who's considering saving for something expensive, you could look at the HBB as a testing ground to see if you are the type of person who likes a lot of sub bass or not. And maybe you can even try EQing it in the upper end somewhere to match the Maestro. Maybe there's some luck there. I don't know. So I think the HBB could be my number one recommendation for anyone looking for a relaxed listening experience. It's cheap, it's affordable, and it does probably a better job, in my opinion, possibly, than the Kai. Because even though the Kai is relaxed as well and very warm, the Kai doesn't have as much apparent perceived detail as what the HBB seems to be offering through its playback. So even though the Kai is 4 times the price as the HBB, I kind of have to give it to the HBB, personally. Now, if you're somebody who wants something to be uber warm and mellow, the Kai is more mellowed out comparatively. So it's not saying you might not prefer the Kai, you might, but it's not my preference. I think I would lean towards the HBB actually now if I want a relaxed listening experience. Except I don't need to pick up those items anymore. I have the Maestro in my possession, so that's what I'm going to listen to. Anytime I want to be relaxed, the Maestro is the ultimate king of relaxed listening, okay? But it's also a king of overall balance. It sounded brilliant throughout the response. So it's going to go high up on my ranking lists, like almost in multiple categories. Now, as for the other gear, they're just barking up different trees. It's weird to compare them at all, actually, in this video, now that I think about it. The Solnote Zero and the Khan are the most relatable to each other so far presented, and I prefer the Solnote Zero. That's not new information. And then the OH10, which was a weird last-minute addition, and you're going to hear a little bit more of that in this last clip coming up in a moment. The OH10 is still a very strong recommendation for a punchy sound, but you're going to feel completely underwhelmed by it after comparing it straight to the Maestro. Again, the brain's psychological effects are probably influencing us here, but in reality too, anything you listen to after the Maestro is going to underwhelm you. So there's that, okay? But the OH10 is still a very strong recommendation for its price and for what it's trying to do. It's not trying to be relaxed. It's not trying to be balanced. It's pretty much trying to be a punchy detail monster. And sometimes it's a little too bright and fatiguing when it's trying to do it. But it's $150 or so, so it's a much easier purchase decision to make if you're into punchy and bright. Okay, I'm done for today, guys. I'm going to listen to some Fat Freak Maestro. I am addicted to it now. Please enjoy the last segment here without my commentary attached. Make your own decisions and thoughts. Comment below, like my video. It really helps if you like the video. If you want to support me in the future, bookmark my Linsol affiliate link. It really goes a long way in growing my channel and my relationship with Linsol as well, I think. So please use my affiliate links whenever possible. See you guys. Have a good one.